His name was Little Mark. That's what they called him. He was a thatcher. And he was killed when he was 11 years old in an accident.
Mark, if you're here with us, say something now, please.
And he died on January 23rd of 1898.
Shortly after that was taken, that portrait, he was dead.
Mark, are you here with us right now?
They'll be down here at night. They can hear children running. Whenever they're, especially in this room, they can feel the presence of a little kid.
I do get this, what I call a creepy feeling, that I'm not alone.
And when I walk in the elevator room where the light switches to the elevator, it's completely dark. And I always feel something behind me when I've heard things, and we always just say, that's the little boy.
If there's a little boy here by the name of Mark Thatcher, come here and talk to me. You need to do it now.
A lot of people ask me, how in the world did you ever get involved in such a field? I think it goes back to when I was a child. And as a child, I had a lot of experiences.
There were a lot of stories throughout the community about places that were apparently haunted. We decided, let's put the stories to the test.
Whenever I was young, I always liked paranormal and stuff and wondered why people hang around after they're gone.
In this area, there was a lot of sickness, and there was a lot of people who died through the Civil War here. And I believe that leads to some of the problem.
Kentucky is not only beautiful, but does have a lot of haunted locations.
All the tales you hear when you're a teenager about, this place being haunted or that place being haunted, there's some little bit of truth in there somewhere.
Being in the paranormal arena is exciting and fun, but you should also be educated.
I really started whenever my dad passed away. I really wanted to see if I could talk to him or something.
Hear the footsteps. There's knocking on the front door.
And she goes over to the stairs and she points and she says, "Who's the girl on top of the stairs?"
The preacher had went crazy at one point and shot several members of the congregation and then shot himself. And his grave is in the corner of the cemetery. And they say grass will not grow on the actual plot to this day.
A lot of people ask me, well, why do you think Waverly's haunted? Well, why is any place haunted? But I don't know about other places, but I know about Waverly.
And a lot of people died up here.
Back then, when tuberculosis was rampant in the state, they tried a lot of experimenting, and a lot of those experiments went bad.
It's not for everybody.
Past residents are really the people who are restoring this building. And people come from all over the world just to see the paranormal activity up here. And I've got to admit that I have experienced nothing like this anywhere else.
Just want to prove to the world that ghosts really exist. There's so many people that says there's no such thing as ghosts, but we're here to prove them wrong.
I think for Kentucky and some of your towns, you have a lot of caves and caverns throughout Kentucky. Also, it's very the lime within the limestone within Kentucky. There is a property, an energy property within limestone, and I think it's very complementary for spirits to use those properties from limestone.
I would say there's probably more open people down this way, it seems like. I'm from Cincinnati, and I know how most people up there are. We have a team, actually two teams, one in northern Kentucky and one in Ohio, and they don't seem to be as open. When they come down here, we work with them, and that's my opinion. It could be with the wars and stuff down here, but I think it's just more open people down here too.
Well, I don't know that it's more haunted than anywhere. I think the people are more attuned to sensing things like that. There's a lot of Scottish, Irish, and English, and either other northern European countries settled Kentucky, and all of those traditions have a strong connection to the spirit world. So it may be that just the people in the South are a little bit more perceptive on that level.
A lot of it just has to do with the rich history. I mean, like if you look at Louisville, back before it was Louisville, this was a pirate town. I mean, that's all it was. and people were murdered constantly. And then if you go back before that, the actual Indians and stuff that were here. Think about the hardships and everything that happened then.
Wherever there's history and a lot of things that have gone on, a lot of historical events that have gone on, I think that attracts the energy. Some of it may be residual, some of it may be active, but I think that's a very good reason why Kentucky does have so many haunted locations.
Where, people have died, or a lot of people have died, maybe, from war or pain or sickness, that there's a chance of some type of haunting. I just believe that it's possible.
Souls Chapel was built in the mid-1800s. It was during the Civil War. Half the congregation sided with the North, the other half sided with the South. The half that sided with the South stayed here at Souls Chapel. The other half built another church it's about a mile as the crow flies from here. It's called Bradley's Chapel. Kind of a bad road to get here. Before too long, the practitioners decided they were just going to go into town. After Souls Chapel fell into ruin and people quit using this as a regular church, well, before too long, rumor has it that a number of satanic worshipers moved into the area.
I've talked to people who said that they knew someone that was here at one of the practices of Satan worshiping, and there was a hole in the middle of church that they filled with blood, and they used the blood for sacrifices.
Some people say that that's what stirred up all the trouble that's here today, all the paranormal problems.
The preacher had went crazy at one point and shot several members of the congregation, and then shot himself. And his grave is in the corner of the cemetery. And they say grass will not grow on the actual plot to this day.
The preacher who was abusive to his children, one night, one of his daughter, fearing abuse, fled from the nearby parsonage, which is only a short distance from here. He chased her to the steps of the chapel where we're sitting now, and got a little carried away with the abuse, and it ended up killing her. And rumor has it that it's this child that still haunts this graveyard.
When I first started training out here, the first time I came out here, I came out as a full-blown skeptic. I went and bought a recorder, a cassette recorder and tape, had one of the members bring me out here on an unscheduled, unplanned visit. And they walked me through the process of recording for EVP. And during the course of that, I turned the recorder on, set it in the corner where the preacher's grave is at, and we walked around for probably about 20 minutes. When I went back to retrieve the recorder, picked it up, put it in my shirt pocket, and we walked back to the vehicle. When I reviewed it later, I got 3 EVPs on it. At the moment I picked the recorder up and it's in my hand, there sounds like a little boy saying, "There's the book." As I learned how to analyze EVP later on, I discovered that by reversing the recording and playing it backwards, it says "There's the book" in reverse as well, which should be impossible. The second and third EVPs I got, the second one sounded like a woman as I walked by her saying, "There's something though." The third one was a woman saying, "Mary Ellen." Well, I spent the rest of the night playing these back and trying to figure out what it was, and I told my wife about it the next morning. She thought I was full of crap. So I brought her out here at 9:30 the next morning, 12 hours from the time I started investigating. As we're walking around, I walked her through the motions of where I was at, what I got, and she noticed a headstone. And part of the headstone was broken out at the name. The first name was Mary, the middle name was missing, and then the last name. Well, the pieces that was broken out was laying on the ground in front of the headstone. We picked them up and pieced them together. It said Mary Ellen. And that was roughly the spot where I was at when that recording made that.
We came out here with an audio recorder to search for EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. We stayed out here probably an hour, each of us in the group asking if there's anything here, and if so, would it speak to us? So we did that, as I said, for about an hour. Took it back, fired up the computer, loaded them on there, and started listening to them. And all of a sudden we heard something that was a little creepy, and we had to rewind it and play it again and again and again, and it just blew our minds. So we tried to amplify the thing as best we could, and it was 3 words. I'm watching you.
A lot of people ask me, how in the world did you ever get involved in such a field? And I think it goes back with a lot of ghost hunters. I think it goes back to when I was a child. And as a child, I had a lot of experiences.
There were a lot of stories throughout the community about places that were apparently haunted. We decided, let's put the stories to the test. So me and Kyle took off to visit every little haunted location, and hoping that we could debunk the ghost stories.
We didn't believe in ghosts, and we set out to disprove them, and we couldn't, and that's why we've continued ghost hunting since.
The thrill.
Something I've always wanted to do, something I always had interest in.
When my brother dared me to come and check out the group, he said, go and prove that they can't do it. I said, okay. Well, I came and met the group.
You know, I'd always been interested in the paranormal and watched all the shows, and you know, once I found out there were actual groups out there that did that, I mean, me and my wife were on board because, you know, like I said, I was a huge fan.
Too many things that was unexplained, you know, growing up when I was a kid, and we just know there's more out there and we want to prove it.
Whenever I was young, I always liked paranormal and stuff and wondered why people hang around after they're gone.
I really started whenever my dad passed away. I really wanted to see if I could talk to him or something.
Well, my grandparents and like my uncle, my great uncle, have always been like, they'd tell me ghost stories and they'd take me to old houses, and my grandma would let me explore old houses, and I loved this stuff. So I've been interested in it and since I was probably 6 years old.
I was at work and a friend was telling me about an article that was in the paper about some ghost hunting group in Owensboro called Bluegrass Paranormal Investigators.
There were different things I couldn't explain in my family, from my great-grandmother to my mom. And
psychic stuff, talking to ghosts and ghost hunting was all pretty kind of a normal subject matter for our dinner conversations.
I got with a friend of mine, Jeff Kasinger, and every word out of his mouth was, let's go ghost hunting.
Just want to like prove to the world that ghosts really exist. There's so many people that says there's no such thing as ghosts, but we're here to prove them wrong.
It took about 4 years to renovate, which means we were doing a lot of things at a lot of times. Didn't really notice anything until after we were getting ready, I guess, getting ready for the open house. And that's when we first started noticing some things.
When I first moved in, it was probably the second or the third night that I was living here on a regular basis. I was up talking to a friend till it was about really close to 2 a.m. actually. I think it was like 1:45. And I'm talking to her on the phone. Everything's fine, sitting there watching TV, sitting on the bed. And all the doors upstairs just closed simultaneously. Loud slam. Even my friend heard it. She stopped. She said, "What the heck was that sound?" I was like, all the doors just shut.
One of the big things is we have sliding pocket doors that go between the parlor and the hall. And they're oak, very heavy, and work perfectly fine. But we came in one morning and the right-hand door going into the parlor was off its track and was sitting at an angle. So we propped it up on a screwdriver, and I told the workman that was here that we needed to work on that, but we weren't in any hurry because, you know, they were doing what they were there to do. Just put it on the to-do list. And 4 days later, when I came in, the door was fixed. So I had thought that we would have to take all of the trim off and get in and who knows what. And I thought, so I went around and said, who fixed the door? You know, you did a good job. I can't even tell you did anything. Nobody would admit to touching it.
I was in the parlor, sitting there watching TV. It was late at night again, and I smelled this really bad burning smell. And I remember thinking, okay, something is on fire. I jump up, I'm looking around at all the appliances, look at the TV, because the TV has this flickering problem anyways, and nothing. So I run upstairs, I said, "Mom, something's burning downstairs, come downstairs and help me." And so we're looking around, we can't smell it anywhere else but in the parlor. So we're like, okay, whatever. And at this point, still it's in the dead of winter, and the water heater, which is gas, always goes in and out. So of course, after we don't smell the fiery smell anymore in the parlor. I say, Mom, go downstairs, check the water heater, make sure it's on so I don't wake up to a cold shower in the morning. She says, okay. And so she goes downstairs, and all I hear is, oh crap, I just bought these. And I go around the corner and I look down the cellar, and there in the middle of the cellar floor is a pile of matches that are still kind of warm, have a little bit of smoke coming off of them, and she had just bought those matches that morning.
We had open house in conjunction with my mother's 80th birthday. Her birthday party was one day and open house for the community was the next. So I had pictures of Mother around. After the open house, I gathered them all up, put them upstairs in the small room we call the sitting room, the very top of the bookcase, at an angle, like sitting this way. There's about 6 of them. My mother, her grandparents on the other side, and just a few others. So I came in one day and looked up, and there was nothing up there. And I was just like, what's happened? Somebody's been in here and taken my pictures. And I stepped over there, and my toe hit one. They were all face down on the floor. They had fallen from the top all the way down, sitting like this.
In a small room, all the pictures on the top shelf fell.
Every one of them, and none of them broke.
None of them broke.
I have a daughter. She is now currently 3 years old. Back when she started talking real well, we were over here just for like a family meeting or something, and she's walking around the house, and she comes over there to me, and she pulls on my shirt, and she says, Mommy, come here, Mommy, come here. So I follow her, and she goes over to the stairs that are in the kitchen that go up to the upstairs, and she points, and she says, who's the girl on top of the stairs? Of course, I look, I'm like, honey, there's didn't think anything about it at first. I'm like, honey, there's nobody up there. You're okay. She's like, no, Mommy, girl, top stairs, in dress. Who's that girl? So at this time, everybody in the house heard her, and everybody's looking over, and they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, of course. And I'm like, it's nobody, honey, and shrug it off.
This is where the orbs was coming into the white socket. It looked like something under the chair.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a chair, it was a table.
It was that, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll reenact that one, and we'll
I
set one.
remember that one. And then you had one here going through to the kitchen.
And I start off, me, Bill, Jacob, we did a walk around downstairs, and we got to the couch in the sitting room. I was sitting on the love seat, and I felt a cold chill.
Are you alright over there?
Yeah, I just got a cold chill. Big time. We had a ghost box session there.
I asked for him to sit down on a couch next to another member of the group and show himself. I said on the count of 3, and I counted 1, 2, 3, and the voice broke and said 4.
4. Then Bill took me into the dining room and took me into a different world. And I've never been there before in my life.
When you say a different world, what do you mean?
It's a place I've never been before. It's totally different. I mean, like a hypnotized thing. It would not really, but
Did it freak you out?
a little bit, yeah.
Whenever we went into Joyce's room when we first got here, we did a ghost box session, and we got a couple of names. What we thought was Sean, and there was a male and female voice, and they were kind of bickering back and forth at each other. And I know for a fact that I turned the audio recorder on to record the ghost box session, but when we went back to review it, there was no session that had been recorded.
It identified that there were 8 entities at this location.
What's your name?
We heard like footsteps walking around upstairs, and we asked we got in contact with the other members of the group and see if it was them. It was nobody. The people on the base were sitting straight still, and the other group was across the street at a graveyard.
The Fairchild's the only one people brings flowers here and put on it. Every summer somebody comes put flowers on it.
Everybody's like, aren't you freaked out living by a grave? No, because I love, I communicate with my spirit guides, and yeah, they move things and, just your regular things that they do. But first time ever I ever got reached out and touched. I mean, it stung for like 2 hours, just hit me, woke me up out of a dead sleep. And I thought, what the hell? Everybody was sound asleep. Right. And then he thought I was kind of nuts about it. He's like, he was just dreaming. And about 2 months later, it happened to him.
Is there someone with us right here now? Is there a spirit with us here now? Make it go to red. Okay, it just did. Does that mean there's 2 of you here? If that's a yes, make it go to the red. I got a red response. Is it male and female? There are 2 of you here with us now? What are you getting at?
Yeah, I'm getting it, man.
So this place is definitely haunted, huh?
Not a doubt in my mind.
Definitely.
If you ever get a chance to check this place out, whether you believe or not, spend the night, you will.